Michael Van Runkle here for HotCars.com, and somehow I've got my grubby little hands on a Lamborghini Urus Performante. It's new for this year, it's got more power, it's wider, it's lower, and it costs $260,000. And this one is fully loaded, so that's more like $319,000. Now, I drove the Performante on the track in Italy when it first came out for media previews. But now Lamborghini gave me this for a few days here in LA to experience what it's like daily driving in real life. So let's hop in and find out, but first please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It helps us beat the algorithm. Thanks. You climb inside and the interior is pretty nice. It got a mild redesign, and this one has the big interior carbon package. $5,700, but it does look good. Put on the seat belt, and then you immediately feel like Top Gun because you got to use this fighter jet style start button. And it sounds pretty good. This is just starting up in Strada mode though, for street, but it might as well be keep your neighbors happy mode because it's not that loud. Of course, you can pop it down into Sport and Corsa here on the same controls, and then it really gets deep. And you give it a quick rev there. Oh, now we're talking. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. For now, we'll just fire it up here in Strada mode, and then there's no drive button here on the center controls, so you just pull paddle shifter, and away we go. Pulling out, you can see it's really not too ooh. I love it when the seatbelt sort of snugs you up. When you climb in, the seat moves forward, the steering wheel comes down, the seatbelt snugs you up, you're just ready to drive. But you can see, this is a car where you can just jump in and drive. Now they've lowered the suspension, they've done steel springs instead of airbags, but otherwise, it's sort of the same old Urus, if you can say a regular Urus. It's got the same twin turbocharged 4.0 liter V8. Now it's making 16 more horsepower, so that's 657 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque. Torque's available at like 2,250 RPM. But really, the differences are more about the ride quality and the tight, sharp track performance. You can see we're on a pretty bumpy road here. In Strava mode, surprisingly, not that bad. They've got adjustable dampers, so you can really soften it up, and that makes a big difference because the normal Urus is very easily daily driven. Now this is a little tighter, to be fair, but I've been driving it around LA for a couple days, and even on the bumpiest roads, it's just a little bit more uncomfortable than the base. You're riding lower because this is a track toy, but they've done a good job of making sure that it's not too terribly uncomfortable. And then when you get on a road like this, well, Strada is already pretty good. The steering is nice and light. The transmission shifts right up at pretty good shift points. It's the familiar ZF 8-speed, same as in the other Urus, which now the base Urus doesn't even exist. You've got the Performante and the S, which gets the same power bump. Now, I'm a big fan of air suspension, but when you start driving this thing on the track, you start to really enjoy the steel springs. And the big difference is this car has active sway bars. So when you come into a corner like this and you start to turn in, you would never know that it's a 4,700 pound SUV. It corners just as flat as a supercar, like, for example, a Lamborghini Huracan or Aventador. But in the Urus with the air suspension, once you come out of the corner and punch it, it really squats because the active sway bars can't control front to rear weight transfer. So that might throw you off when you're driving the base or S Urus with the air suspension. With the Performante and the steel springs, that simply doesn't happen. It's still got gnarly turn-in, it's still razor sharp, and we're just here in Strada mode. Driving it in town, you've got moderate visibility, except for out the back. It's got that low roof line. We've got the carbon fiber spoiler now for downforce in our 4,700 pound SUV. But overall, pretty comfortable. My main complaint for the Performante, driving it around the last couple days, has been that it has the most aggressive, most intrusive driver assistance functions. In fact, it just kicked in as I was saying that, because I was looking at the camera and eked right over towards the side of the line. But it borders on really kind of dangerous. Say, for example, this morning on the PCH, I was coming up here to Malibu to film this video, and I saw a motorcyclist coming up from behind me, splitting lanes. So I tried to scoot over in the lane a little bit to give him more room. And then the driver assistance function thinks I'm asleep and yanks the steering wheel, like pretty hard, and forces me to almost hit the guy. Similar, you're coming up on a pothole, for example. Now the radar system cannot see a pothole, so you're trying to avoid it. Because you've got the 23-inch wheels, you don't want to hit the pothole, so you're trying to avoid it, scoot over in the lane, and then the driver assistance function cranks you over again. You can't stop it, and you just nosedive right into the pothole. Not great on super low profile tires. But you know what? The eventual lesson you learn is you're in a Lamborghini Urus Performante, and you ought to be in at least sport mode. You pop it down here into sport, it immediately pops up a warning that says driver assistance systems currently limited. Lamborghini precognition currently limited. You hear the engine revved up a little higher. The suspension gets stiffer. The steering weight gets a little tighter, and the throttle modulation changes radically. That is another weird part. This car has a ton of power. It's one of the vehicles on the market that still has the magic of like gnarly acceleration in an era when electric cars have made everything feel honestly kind of slow. So when you hit the throttle in Strada, it actually has a good amount of travel, and you're sort of waiting for the turbos to spool up, and you don't get that instantaneously available power. As soon as you turn into sport mode though, oh boy, all of a sudden just a little, and it downshifts crisply. It's not a dual clutch gearbox, but it's still fast, and it's holding that gear. We're at like 4,800 RPM, and it's happy to hold that, even though I'm not going full blast, because you can't go full blast because we're on public roads. And that's why Lamborghini brought us out to Valle Longa to experience the Performante in its natural habitat on the track. And I completely understand how ridiculous it is that I'm talking about a $300,000 SUV in its natural habitat on the track. But it actually did pretty well. Now, it's not as like mind-blowingly fast as an Aventador or a Huracan just because of the weight difference, but you'd be surprised how excellent the turn-in is. You really can trail brake, keep that weight just a little on the nose, and you've just got so much grip. The tires are enormous. We were on street tires, but they did pretty well. You started to slip and slide a little towards the end of your session, but in normal driving, you're gonna be more than sufficiently glued to the tarmac. It's absolutely wild. And then, for me, it was a learning lesson in getting back into the incredible traction of all-wheel drive, coming through corners after you brake and start turning, and then you power out and you just trust those front wheels. Once the road gets a little slippery, especially as it is here on a moist day in Topanga, you just trust those front wheels to just pull you out of the corner. And it really does a very good job. Now, of course, straight line speed is where most people are gonna have the most fun with their Urus Performante. 657 horsepower is absolutely absurd. I think that's second only to the DBX 707, which, for the record, also $300,000, also completely absurd. But in all honesty, this car is more engaging. The Aston feels like a little bit, I don't know how to say it other than it's been anesthetized. It is still the Aston that maybe mom takes the kids to the grocery store or to school in. This Lamborghini Urus Performante, and even to an extent the base Urus, really captures the spirit of Lamborghini. And I'm cornering so hard in an SUV. It's just great. I'm going down a hill, I'm in a big SUV, and this car has the largest carbon ceramic brakes ever fitted to a production vehicle. Now that was the claim when this was new, when the base Urus was new anyways. And now I believe the Bugatti Bolide has larger carbon ceramic brakes, so let's call it the largest carbon ceramic brakes ever fitted to a production vehicle not called a Bugatti. The gear ratios are excellent. You don't have to start in second like you do for a bunch of super SUVs because first is super torquey, but you start first and it's still got plenty of modulation, so it's not just absolutely lurching around in town. Of course, when you stiffen it up into sport, it does get a little bit bumpy in town. But, you know, maybe that's just a Lamborghini reference, you know, reminding you, hey, buddy, you're in a $300,000 Lamborghini. Don't tailgate that Honda Civic, maybe. So coming through these corners, now let's pop it down into Corsa mode. The tachometer changes. The emergency braking system has completely been turned off. The ESC light comes on, but I'm sure they've still got a little bit of traction control going for me here on a wet day. And it's really downshifting for me now. And the engine is even louder. I hope you can hear that through the GoPro. It just sounds so angry and so happy at the same time. Very Italian. I love it. The general public does not like your Urus Performante when you're in Corsa or Sport mode. They like your Urus Performante in regular Strada mode. In fact, the general public kind of doesn't like Urus Performantes at all. It is a little bit of a statement car, to say the very, very least. People do stop and stare. Now, of course, this one is bright red, which also seems to attract birds like nothing I've ever seen in my life. I swear I have not parked this car under a single tree or not even under a telephone wire, and it has just gotten nuked. I've had to clean it twice already in 2 days. So we're pulling out onto Mulholland Highway here. It's a good time to just pop it into Strada. We've got some houses around again. Take it easy. And once again, just cruising. It's nice and quiet. The transmission shifts are happening well below 1750 RPM. I think we're like at around 1500. But now the driver's assistance system is activated again, and I can see it here on the dash. So for example, if I get even close to that yellow line, I'm not really, it's steering for me. It won't drive for you. I tried that. I just let go of the steering wheel entirely, which makes me really nervous in a $300,000 SUV. But it tells you a warning after about 10 seconds of detecting no steering input. Ding, ding, ding. Time to pay attention here, boys. So back here, the road's getting a little bit twisty again. I might just pop it back into Corsa, or it's dinging at me to warn me that the driver's assistance systems that I hate are currently inactive. Thankfully, we can turn that off. And you can turn those off via a deep menu, but then every time you turn the car off and back on again, it resets to the base. Probably mandated by law, but very sort of un-Lamborghini, and they have to do it. But, you know, the idea of this car is to be super alpha. You're in control of your life. You've done so well and you're so successful that you can drive a Urus Performante. But, I don't know, then it starts trying to drive for you. It seems antithetical to the whole idea. So, you drop it into Sport or Corsa. Or, very exciting, for the Urus Performante, they've added a rally mode, which tones down the exhaust a bit, but keeps the high shift points and messes with the stability control so that you can go off-roading in your Lamborghini Urus Performante. Yeah, let's think about that. Completely insane idea. Nobody is going to do it. And when I was at Vallelunga, I talked to the Lamborghini guys and I said, nobody's gonna do it. And they said, look, nobody is gonna do it. First of all, you got 22 or 23-inch wheels. You're usually delivering these cars with summer tires that will not get any grip in the dirt. And then you've got one of the most powerful engines ever fitted to a production SUV. So let's turn down the traction control and allow you to go in the dirt. And to Lamborghini's eternal credit, they were bold enough to allow journalists to drive the Urus Performante on a little dirt rally track hidden behind Vallelunga. What happened? I started going sideways, full opposite lock steering. It was awesome. They had a professional Lamborghini driver in the passenger seat, and he kept telling me, oh, you can give it more. You can give it more. Why are you going so slow? Why are you not cranking hard through every corner? And I had to remind him that I am a journalist, and my job is to bring the car back in one piece. Of course, in rally mode, it'll still wind up nice and high for you, and you get that deep guttural rumble. The red line on this engine here is 6750 RPM, I believe. It's got the smallest little gradients. It's got the smallest little hash marks for a tachometer that I've ever seen. Like, you need to know that when you're getting your face melted and your head slammed back into the seat. But when you start using the paddle shifters coming into a corner like this, we're in rally mode, then you start pushing out. Oh, it just drives so well. It's really unbelievable. You get some good pop and bang when you have throttle liftoff going into corners. You brake hard. Oh, it downshifted a little bit too hard for me there. It went down 2 gears. Maybe I'm being a little bit lightweight here, but it also might be shifting slightly differently here in rally mode. Oh, and the rear end broke loose a little bit there. So you can see, oh yeah, it's getting squirrely. I love it. I should be paddle shifting more, but I'm in sort of M/D mode. You can't put it into full manual mode here on the center console. But in rally mode, it really does allow you to sort of start getting an inkling of drifting, just enough that you get terrified that you're gonna crash your $319,000 Lamborghini Urus Performante. But that's the kind of pucker factor that I thoroughly enjoy in a car like this. To a certain extent though, you have to realize it's just a car. If you buy this and you're daily driving it, you're gonna get bird poop on it. You're gonna slip and slide if you go in the snow in tires like this, or in the dirt, which, for the record once more, nobody is going to do. But this thing is just, it's so fun to drive. It's unbelievable what Lamborghini was able to achieve in an SUV to keep that sort of spirited, emotionally engaging, raw driving experience. It's not nearly as raw as the Aventador, with honestly one of the world's worst automatic transmissions, but it still delivers when you want it to. And then, for example, if there's road construction coming up, like there is now, pop it back into strata mode, and we won't piss anybody off here. Now, of course, all the haters out there for the Urus Performante, and I will admit that I used to be one of them, because you want to hate this car. You just want to, until you drive it, and then you say, my lord, they did a really good job. But all the haters are gonna say you can get an RSQ8 for half the price. The answer is you're not wrong, but you can't get an RSQ8 with steel springs. Of course, the haters are also gonna say it's the Performante. It's gonna be the maxed out version. They should have put the V12 in there. And I also really can't disagree there. They should have put the V12 in here, but they're maybe waiting till the next Aventador V12 comes out for the last gasoline-powered Aventador. Or, as Reuven Moore told me, they really didn't want you to have to rev it up to 6,000 RPM to have any power on the highway and get even worse fuel economy than you're gonna get in the Performante. I think last time that I checked, I was averaging 9. This car is a statement about your success. It's a statement about who you are as a person, who you want to look like, and the image you want to put out into the world. But Lamborghini still had to make it an excellent car to drive. And that is, at the end of the day, what's most impressive about the Urus Performante. It is way over the top. It costs way too much. It's completely silly to have a rally mode in an SUV like this. And I wanted to hate it, just like the base Urus. It's absurd, and I didn't think I would like it. And then they took me on the track, and then they took me on the rally course, and now I've had a chance to drive it on public roads. I could never buy this car for over $300,000, obviously. But you really got to give Lamborghini credit. They did a great job of taking what's essentially a commuter SUV from Volkswagen and cramming their DNA into it, and then making that even more radical with the Urus Performante. I hope you learned something watching this today, and if you did, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us beat the algorithm. Thanks.